This message is just for you. You are good enough. This is the episode for you. If you are struggling with procrastination and nothing seems to be working to beat it, I made this video just for you. I noticed that we're talking about procrastination a lot at the moment, and a lot of the conversations around it start like this. Why am I procrastinating? What parts of my routine need to change? What productivity hacks are missing from my day? And what distractions do I need to eliminate? And sometimes they are exactly the questions that you need to be asking. You know, maybe your phone is the culprit, and if you were to put it in another room, change it to flight mode, the problem would go away. Maybe switching to the Pomodoro method would help to get you out of that current overthinky state that you're in and help you to get started, knowing that it's only 25 minutes that you're committing to. It's all worth a try. But sometimes what we're actually doing with things like that is plastering over a bigger underlying issue. And the questions that we should really be asking are, why am I so afraid to get started? And what is this avoidance actually trying to tell me? I have a story to share with you from a video I saw last year from a TikTok channel called Social Lab TV that perfectly illustrates one way that we can build up those feelings of aversion to our work. I truly believe that wisdom comes from everywhere, and this video really did give me so much food for thought. So in the video, a teacher instructs a class full of students to complete the first of a list of 3 anagrams on the sheet in front of them. And she says as soon as they've done the first one, they need to raise their hand. And within barely any time at all, hands start just flying up. But the teacher keeps repeating, just do number 1 only, do number 1, don't go on ahead. This isn't meant to be difficult. But half the class still didn't have their hands up. And so with half the class's hands still down, she moves them on to anagram number 2, and the same thing happens. The same hands fly up. Finally, they all move on to number 3, but half the class still haven't put their hand up once. And then here's the twist, only after the 3rd anagram does the teacher reveal to the class that they'd been given 2 completely different tests. For half the class, the 1st and 2nd anagram were easy, but for the other half, they were completely unsolvable. There was no anagram to make from the letters they were given. The 3rd was the same for both halves of the class, completely solvable. And yet there was a marked difference in performance between the people that approached it after 2 quick and easy wins and the people who approached it after 2 apparent failures. So many of the second group just hadn't got it, and they certainly could have. And the teacher tells the class that what she's induced in that 5-minute experiment is a form of learned helplessness. And they talk about it, and the class concludes that when the students with the impossible anagrams saw so many other people around them raising their hands, and so fast as well, they felt stupid, they felt rushed, and they were so confused and frustrated by the fact that their peers were getting it and they weren't. So by the time they got to the 3rd anagram, their confidence was shaken, they thought that it was futile, and they thought that even by attempting it, they were just setting themselves up for another failure. And I think this experiment really illustrates 2 essential lessons for us as language learners. The first one is, the comments on that video were filled with people telling stories from their own school days where they were made to feel exactly like that. Stupid, rushed, confused, behind their peers. They felt, rightly or wrongly, like they were just surrounded by people succeeding and thinking, like, I'm an idiot, I must be missing something, I must be doing something wrong. And now I want to ask you, as adult language learners, how often do we set up that kind of situation for ourselves? If we wake up in the morning and the first thing we do before we've even got out of bed is wonder why our lives are terrible, why we're terrible while we're behind, or we replay past failures, arguments from last year on a loop, it's little surprise that we can't make ourselves work when we get up. Or if we head straight for our phones on our breaks to skim the news and read headlines that depress us, or we scroll social media to see this endless carnival of what looks like everyone else steaming ahead, then of course we can't make ourselves work again afterwards. Because in both cases, we're starting our work from that place of 2 failed anagrams and a sea of hands in the air around us. Feels futile. We feel like failures, we feel behind. And so if this is you right now, that might be why anti-procrastination tools aren't working for you. Because while the novelty of some new technique might numb it or shock it into submission in the short term, it won't fix the underlying issue, which is that you're approaching your work from a place in which you already think you've failed. The fundamental issue is that we're trying to use that mental mud as a springboard and then wondering why we're sinking. And the second lesson is, before you worry about how everyone else is doing, for God's sake, make sure they're doing the same exam. In that experiment, it certainly looked from the outside like everyone was in the same boat. Same place, ostensibly doing the same thing. But behind the scenes, everything that mattered was different. And it's exactly the same with us. And for us as language learners, nobody will be able to come in and show us exactly how our paths are different and how that affects us, but it's true. And we have to be aware of that. Not to beat ourselves up about what other people have and we don't, and not as an endless point of self-comparison in itself, but as a shield from self-comparison. No matter how similar our circumstances look from the outside, we are not on the same journey as the language learner next to us. So if it looks like they're going faster than us or getting things easier than us, it doesn't mean we're stupid or behind or on the wrong track. It doesn't necessarily mean anything at all. And really, so much of this just comes down to the need to trust that we are exactly where we should be right now, and that we've got all the skills we need to get to the next step of our journey. And that this will all make sense down the line. Because once we know and we keep reminding ourselves that we're doing this for a reason, the effort that we're putting in is worth it, it's just so much easier to keep working at it and keep being kind to ourselves and patient with ourselves. And we're less likely to hide from our work behind games or scrolling or non-urgent errands. Have a fabulous day, and I will see you back here tomorrow.